Welcome, welcome, welcome again. Thank you very much for joining us today. It is the webinar for educators in English today, and we are joining a new program that will hopefully inspire your students and transform your teaching and help you implement metacognition. It is called Mastering Education Through Awareness. So we want to welcome you all. It would be great if you could write in the chat where you are logging in from and where you are from. Sometimes it is possible to figure out who is from which country by their name, but not always. So it would be great to see where you are from. Croatia. All right. Fantastic. And Romania. That is great. From Indonesia, oh my gosh. Selamat datang.
Wow.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for coming.
All right, thank you very much for coming. And who else? We know some of you. Iga is from Warsaw. Okay, thank you so much. We're hoping that more people will join us. 74 people signed up for the webinar today. So we are hoping that everyone will be able, or at least some more will be able to join us actually in person. So let us begin with telling you a little bit more about the META program. And this will actually just be a very brief introduction by Kasia. So please tell us.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I will introduce myself a little bit later. Now, as Beata said, let's just go over quickly our program. So our META program consists of three things, which will provide you with a comprehensive support for teachers. The first is a series of 4 webinars, which are going to take place from September to April. Then the regular newsletter on Substack, which you hopefully have already signed up for, and you know how it works. And then like the core of the program, I guess, apart from the webinars, is our guide, which is called Mastering Education Through Awareness, a guide for teachers on developing metacognition, critical thinking, and reflective learning. And this is our tool, our very practical tool that will equip you with more than 60 adaptable lesson plans and activities ready to use whenever you want. Thank you.
Right. Okay, well, thank you. We are going to tell you much more about it today, but perhaps first we should introduce ourselves properly. So, Kasia, you already began speaking, so let's hear about you.
All right. Okay, so I will take out my card for this. It will be a bit easier. Okay, so what can I say about myself? I think that the first and most important thing in context of practicality of our approach is the fact that I am an in-service teacher and I've been doing this for 24 years now. I'm also an examiner of all sorts of exams, of the state Polish exams for primary, secondary school. So I also have an awareness of the requirements for the exams. I'm also the Cambridge examiner for all our exams. Yeah, what else? I'm also a trained teacher trainer of the European Federation for Intercultural Learning. I create a lot of educational materials. I design courses. I speak at conferences. I also love and well, yeah, this is probably one of the most important things for me. I love cooperating with people in Poland and internationally. So I took part in lots of international projects with Beata, with Iga, who is here, and with lots of educators from different countries. I also got some nice rewards for what I do. I really like all sorts of active teaching methods where I can involve and engage my students to learn. Yeah. I also cooperate with different institutions like, well, here in Poland at different levels, regional and national, but probably I will just stop here. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And my name is Beata. I am an experienced educator, longtime teacher, and examiner of English at a high school level, particularly in the IB English B program. I have always been open to new ideas, new horizons, opportunities in education. Um, I'm certainly very passionate about lifelong learning. I'm trained in the UBD, Understanding by Design method of lesson planning. I design courses using blended learning and project-based learning. I also promote learning through social engagement. That's something called service learning and the effective use of new technologies in the classroom. And for many years, I've incorporated lifelong learning skills into my curriculum and practice. Also, for several decades, I've promoted a growth mindset, not only for my own students, but also for teachers talking about it, and also acquisition of 21st century skills while teaching English. And that's why perhaps I have also extensive experience in also designing, developing, and supporting professional learning communities, which we are going to try to implement in our program. And I describe all of these experiences in the M.E.T.A guide and in also in future webinars. I will also share more with you. We're also collaborating with Anggi Suharja, who is here today. We're collaborating on the Indonesian version of our program. So Hendrik, you're going to be able to get that in Bahasa Indonesia as well. And Anggi will tell you more about herself.
Thank you, Beata. Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you virtually. My name is Anggi Suharja. I'm currently living in Thailand. So greetings from Thailand. I'm currently a lecturer at School of Liberal Arts, M.E.T.A Luang University. And before teaching here, I taught in Indonesia, and I taught Indonesian at Columbia University in the US, and also Indonesian in Australia, in Melbourne. So I'm really happy to collaborate with Beata and Kasha here because I'm really passionate about education. It's always been my dream to be a teacher. So I'm living my life now. This is the best job ever, like for me. So I'm really passionate about it. I'm also involved in a lot of community projects in terms of language literacy, through seminars, webinars, conferences, community engagement, and other projects. Right now, I'm also the director of Rumah Bipa. It's a platform to learn Indonesian from all over the world. We are on social media, and also empowering Indonesian teachers to teach Indonesian for foreigners. And yeah, really happy to meet you today. And I hope we can share what we have, and then of course, like learn to be a better teacher for our students. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anggi. So let's begin looking at our program and what it can offer for you. But before we do that, we're going to begin with an exercise that is called a 30-second shout-out exercise. Okay. Okay. So we've got yes.
Can you repeat the instruction, because we had some noises in the background and I don't think everyone has heard. Once again, what are we going to do now?
We're going to start looking at our program and what it offers for you. And first, we will begin with a 30-second exercise that's called a shout-out exercise. I don't know if you are using it or perhaps you have ever used it, but I have quite a lot, and it is quite effective. So how does it work? We basically start counting a 30-second interval, and when we begin the countdown, everyone in the online version turns on their microphones and shouts out the answer to the question as loudly as possible. So if you're in a public place, that may be a little embarrassing, but let's just do this. And then of course we will discuss about what we are doing. Okay, so we have two questions for you. What are your expectations? What brings you over here? Okay, now 30 seconds sounds, like a very short period of time, but you will notice right away that it's actually quite a lot of time to fill out with something that you want to say as an answer to either of the questions or both. Okay, that's okay. Adriana, just go ahead and log out and log in again. The waiting room has been disabled, so you can just come in right away. Okay, so let's just try to do that, and then we will talk about what are the benefits of this activity. Okay, so let's begin. I'm going to turn on a clock on my phone and see if okay, we've got 30 seconds. All right, so everybody unmutes, and everybody at the top of your voice shout out your answers to these two questions. Okay, are we ready? You don't have to turn on your camera, just unmute. All right, are you ready? I see everybody muted still. Unmute your microphones. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Everybody's unmuted.
No. One person is actually ready to do that.
One. Let's have more. Please. Okay, there's Kasia. Kasia Henrik, I know you're there. Yeah, curiosity, exactly. You don't have to be on camera,
and being
but we
open
need
to new new
That's a new idea for
To be
you.
a
Yes,
better
okay.
version of
There you go.
myself.
All right. So I'm starting the clock. Right now. Okay, let's do it. Ready, set, go. Everybody at the same time. Go.
Curiosity.
Everybody at the same time. That's the whole point.
curiosity,
Curiosity.
Keep going. 30
teaching
seconds.
methods.
It's like getting to
To
know
be
you,
a better
getting to know.
version of
Yes.
myself.
Keep going. Still 15 seconds.
Oh God, so
Learn.
long. Okay.
Exactly.
Getting to know some new things about meta learning and teaching, and what is it actually meta.
Exactly. Well, thank you.
And
Thank you very
curiosity
much.
about your book.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So thank you very much for participating and for bearing with me. This is one of the exercises that is actually featured in our guide. And the whole point of it is to get students engaged, to awaken their thinking, and to involve everyone in the lesson. Okay, so of course, because if you have 30 students in your class, if everybody is shouting at the same time, there is no way to hear what each person is doing and saying. And so therefore the focus is only on their own thoughts and not on trying to figure out what my friend is saying or being embarrassed about what I am saying because other people are listening. So doing this exercise from time to time, it allows the students to, for example, warm up their voices for a discussion that you are going to conduct. Feel a sense of belonging to a group. Gradually, once you do this several times, you overcome the fears from, the speaking or being judged, and many more possible benefits that we discuss in the chapters in the guide. So we encourage to try to use this exercise throughout the year, not in every lesson, of course, but it's up to you really to decide how often you do this and when it will be the most effective. Is it effective? we can both tell you that it is. I have actually used it not just in regular classes, but also during online lessons throughout the whole pandemic. We also received other questions during the registration. For example, how to develop learners to think critically in the present time. Another question was how to address the issue with kindergarten children. In the guide and in our webinars, you will certainly find the answer to the first question. And for the second one with the kindergarten children, because we are actually aiming the book and the webinars for teachers who teach probably from grade 6 and above, all the way through university, you will most probably find the answers to the question, how do you address the issue with kindergarten children, by adapting some of the scenarios to the younger grades. And we know that you are the experts and experienced teachers as far as your classes and your subjects are concerned. And by sharing your experiences in your tries to implement the scenarios, we will, in the future webinars, that's what we are going to be doing. You will also receive more ideas for future adaptation or implementing the scenario in a different way than we suggest. Okay, so let's begin with the main point, the META program, and your question about what is it exactly. And I hand it over to Kasia.
Yes, yes. So let's dive into the core of our book, actually, and into the core of the main idea. Okay, so let's start with some of these questions. Do you recognize them, perhaps? I mean, the question is, do you sometimes ask them yourself? Because even despite my broad experience, I go back to these questions quite often. And I think that these are like, yes, somebody said, yes, of course, exactly. And I think that, even despite, I don't know, the number of trainings that we undergo, there are always some challenges in the classroom. And I think that these questions reflect them the best. So, for example, why don't my students learn, right? Do they find my subject boring? Why is it so hard to communicate with them? Why are they constantly stressed? What are they constantly stressed about? This is a very important issue connected with this emotional and psychological crisis among young people these days. Why don't they take responsibility for their learning? Do they know why they are learning? And do they know how to learn? Right? I don't know about you, but sometimes I ask my students a question, especially when a person is not satisfied with the grade that I give them. So how did you actually study? What did you do? And it is really amazing that a lot of students, they only say like, oh, I just read from the book, and that's all they can actually say. So it seems like they really very often don't know how to go about it. So our answer to all of these questions is, Batka, change the slide. Yes, is actually metacognition. And this is a pretty scary term, perhaps, for some people, but it is pretty common in psychology, because metacognition means briefly thinking about your thinking. So when you apply it to the educational context, it refers to the awareness and one's control over his or her learning process, right? So I will say that again. Metacognition in the educational context refers to awareness and control over one's own learning process. So it is a certain technique to kind of go back and look at your learning from the bird's eye view in a way, and ponder, right? Basically, what happens? How am I doing? Am I going in the right direction? How can I adapt my learning process, and so on and so forth? And when you take this into account and go back to the questions that I have just read, you can easily and right away actually answer those questions. So, for example, why don't my students learn? Well, often because they lack awareness of their own learning process. Why do they find my subject boring? Perhaps they lack intrinsic motivation, right? Which comes from the satisfaction of one's own educational progress and internal drive, internal motivation. Why is it so hard to communicate with them? Among various reasons, one could be that our methods and approaches don't provide students with space for autonomous decisions, and that's why they simply rebel sometimes. Why are they constantly stressed? Well, perhaps because they don't have control of their own learning process and see grading and assessment as a sort of a threat, as a sort of a punishment. Why don't they take responsibility for their learning? Well, because they don't know what it means and they have never experienced it, and they actually don't know how pleasurable it can be, right? If you can make decisions about your own learning process. Do they know why they are learning? Perhaps they don't have autonomy in setting their own learning goals and are stuck in the rigid framework of curricula and educational requirements. Do they know how to learn? Has anyone taught them? Well, perhaps they just don't know it, right? And then, but come to the next slide, right? So when you think about metacognitive knowledge, it actually consists of like three main parts. The first one is the declarative knowledge, and this is simply like the basic knowledge of how our brain and memory works, and also the knowledge of various learning methods and strategies. Once you have that knowledge, you have to learn how to apply it, right? How to implement different learning strategies. And in case something goes wrong along the way, you have to be able to know why it didn't work and how to change it. And this is called conditional knowledge, actually. Okay, we can move on. Yes, I would also like to stress that metacognition, as I indicated before, can actually help us support young people around the world in the current mental crisis. Why? Because when you kind of delve into your inner world in terms of assessing your educational progress, you also can think about your motivations and also about your emotions connected with educational situations, right? And combined with reflective learning, metacognition is a highly useful tool for developing also self-management skills. And on the next slides, we have kind of broken this term down into smaller parts, right? So we can, yes, So for example, thanks to metacognition, our students can, of course, become more self-aware because they will understand their own emotions, strengths and weaknesses, values, motivators, and so on. Next one. Right, emotional regulation. This is, yes, this is this bit connected with helping our students to deal with their emotional disturbances. Is the ability to manage and respond to emotions in a healthy and productive way. This regulation also involves maintaining calm under pressure, coping with stress, and avoiding impulsive reactions. Next one is self-motivation, of course. So if you, for example, know how to learn, if you know how to set your own goals, your self-motivation, intrinsic motivation definitely increases. Time management is also involved, right, along the learning process, along planning. Next. Adaptability, of course, this happens at the later stage of metacognitive process when a student evaluates his own goals and when he has to adapt some new strategies if something goes wrong. I would also like to stress here that adaptability is probably one of the most important skills on the market, job market these days, apart from critical thinking and other things. So yeah, so definitely.
I was just going to say that, right?
Yeah, you see, Velta?
Go ahead.
Yeah, stress management, this has been already mentioned before, right? As you self-regulate, you also manage your stress. And self-control, which is quite close to, and emotional intelligence, right? They are all like connected together.
This is also the moment where the students stop misbehaving.
Yeah, that's a good point. Exactly. Okay, let's move on. Yes, and some more things on top of that, which I think are pretty important, like personal responsibility and taking ownership for your own learning, which is very crucial. If we want to raise lifelong learners, we can only do that by developing this ability in them. Yes. Next, Betka. Of course, decision making. This is connected with, of course, setting up your goals, but also making decisions about how you learn, what you do. It is also connected with our teaching methods a lot. Setting and achieving goals. Okay, let's move on again. Okay.
All right.
Now,
Yeah.
yeah.
So Kasia just introduced some of the ideas that you are going to learn from the chapters of the guide. I think that most of you have already received chapter 0, the introduction, and if not, Angie is going to copy paste the link to it. You can download it from the chat. And if that doesn't work right now, don't worry about it, because after the webinar, you will receive an email with the PDF of the deck and the recording of this webinar as well, and the 2 chapters that we want to share with you right away. The whole book, apart from the introduction, it contains 14 chapters, and initially, I do have to say very honestly, when we wrote the guide, we thought that the whole program that we will present to you, we thought that we were going to present the entire guide to you and just give that to you. And with consultations with fellow teachers, we actually changed our approach to gradually introducing a few chapters each month. And why we are going to do that? Because we know that everyone is overworked, because we know that it is very difficult to get a lot of information. We know we have gone to many different webinars and conferences and training sessions and workshops, and we take a lot of notes, and then it takes a lot to implement what we learned into our practice. So we care about supporting you throughout the year in implementing these scenarios, rather than just throwing the guide at you with the thought, okay, here's 200 pages, 60 scenarios, read that, implement that, and there we are. So we want to create this sort of professional learning community with you, and not leave you with with the guide to deal with this on your own. So that is the reason why the META program extends from September to basically end of April, and gradually, step by step, we will implement and weave the scenarios into your own teaching program, teaching style, also in your subjects, because it's very important. These scenarios do not replace your subject. It is more of the meta teaching method, the teaching through awareness. So you will be adapting your teaching methodology to raising student awareness. And as you can see here, the 14 chapters are organized in a certain way: theoretical foundations and practical steps for developing critical thinking, reflective learning, and metacognition. That's chapter number 1, which you are going to receive today. And then we have scenarios for the role of the teacher and the role of the student. We have scenarios for motivation and inspiration. Very interesting. Kasia can tell you a bit about that in a second. Focusing on students' strength and the art of asking questions. That is sort of the foundation for the metacognitive learning process that is going to be implemented a little bit later. So chapters 6, 7, 8, 10, and 11 really are all working through metacognitive strategies. Kasia will tell you more in a second about that. And we finished off with some general scenarios for job market opportunities, ability to adapt to lifelong learning, and school-wide approach to metacognition. Okay, so Kasia, tell us what each chapter contains.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so what you can, each chapter is consists of 3 parts. On this slide, you can see the first pages from the 2 first parts. So the first part focuses on the why. So we try to walk you through like the arguments, sometimes scientific, sometimes taken from everyday life, referring to real life scenarios, stories of real people. And they will all try to explain why tackling the topic of a given chapter is important and useful. This is not in the scientific kind of style, so don't get afraid or anything. It's pretty, I think, chatty. This is a kind of like summary of some of the most important theories, methodologies about each topic in one chapter. Usually this is like 2 pages. And then we have the how, which is the core and the more important part of our guidebook. And I think that this is ultimately the reason why our publication stands out on the market, because it's very, very practical. So okay, Beata, you can move on to the next. So what follows are the ways, the hows of implementing the main topic of each chapter in practice. And here you can see a snapshot of one of the lessons on developing thinking skills and reflective learning. As you can see, it is divided into particular tasks with suggestions of time. Very often these can be adapted. For example, at the very bottom of the top of the page, sorry, you can see that the whole lesson can take you from 15 to 25 minutes. It depends on you. You can make your own decisions depending on how much time you have. You are also supported with lots of practical tips. We take into account the fact that sometimes we might have some issues with technology for different reasons. So there are usually low-tech and high-tech version of these lessons. Apart from that, we support you with some tips on how to organize the learning process in terms of which techniques to divide your students into groups to use. The exercise we did today is also like one of those tips included in the books, but there are really many more. And the last part is this page where you as a teacher can become, or you are actually a lifelong learner yourself, and you ask yourself metacognitive questions about what went well, what you think could be improved, and how. You also you can think about the questions that you could ask yourself or your students, and so on. You can take notes, and this could be really useful for our webinars when we meet, because we are going to be meeting quite regularly, as you will see in a moment, and you can use these notes when you come to the next webinar. Because as Beata has stressed before, the main point of webinars is for us to become like this small community of practice, so we can exchange our ideas, support each other, and also we as writers expect some feedback about the book, because we are also learning and we want to have it improved in the future. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes. At the end of each chapter, because you are going to be getting these chapters in a PDF form, you will also have a link or a QR code to an interactive bibliography, which is placed on a website or an application called Wakelet. You may be using it yourself already. New content is being created all the time. We all read and watch TED Talks and receive more, I guess, proof for the fact that metacognition, reflective learning, and critical thinking are necessary. Forbes articles, New York Times articles, there are studies being conducted as we speak, and therefore, as we discover them, we will be adding them to the bibliography, and that is why it is an interactive one. And of course, we love to get information from you as well, so you will also be part of the creation, or the creators of the bibliography. So how will this very effective, gradual, and helpful teacher support work? So in September and October, we will share the following chapters by sending you links through the Substack subscription. And at this point, most of you already have been added to the mailing list. And if you haven't, you can, if you haven't actually received an email from Substack yet, let us know and we will fix it. The first chapter will be shared with you today. In fact, it is already in the chat. Thank you very much, Angie. Later on, during September and October, you will receive the next 4 chapters of the guide to look at the scenarios and to try to implement them. And during those weeks, we will be, of course, sharing comments on the implementation of the scenarios on our Substack posts. And on Saturday, October 19th at 10 a.m., we will share these best practices and your results. And it will be a very interactive webinar in which you will be taking a very active part. We also have a place for you to get together and to get the support from the learning community on the Slack app. Many of you may already be using it, or you may be familiar with it. There is a channel for the Polish version of the guide, and also for the English, and we also are presenting it today to the Indonesian community in Bahasa Indonesia. So there will be 3 channels in the Slack app for teachers to share their knowledge and their questions and perhaps answers as well. Okay, so you can download this after the webinar. Then in November and December, 3 more very interesting and informative chapters on the actual learning process and metacognitive strategies. And again, in early December, we will have another interactive webinar to share those comments, to share how these scenarios went for you, and perhaps learn from others how you could adapt it in a different way than we proposed. In January and February, more of these scenarios, and at the end of February, we will have another webinar. That's right. And of course, Slack continues to be a support. Kasia, can you say about the end?
Yes, of course. So the last bit of the guide, the last 3 chapters will come out in March and April, and these will be on job market opportunities, ability to adapt to lifelong learning, because of course metacognition is about becoming finally a lifelong learning, which is very much connected with the opportunities on the job market. And the final bit deals with school-wide approach to metacognition, and also it's about how to involve the whole school community, including parents, which we think also play a very important role. And then at the end of April, the last webinar in the series will take place, and again we will share practices and results, support each other, and who knows what happens next.
Well, what we really want to sum up now is the support program. So what does it entail? It entails the whole guide. That's about 200 pages with probably over 60 scenarios. I know that it is over 60 scenarios to try out, and dozens of practical tips. You will also be receiving weekly posts on Substack and 8 months of supportive professional community on the Slack app. We think that especially in small schools and rural schools and remote areas where you do not have that kind of support for your teaching practice, this will be very, very helpful, especially with the 4 webinars, interactive webinars, where you will be able to share your practice, share your experiences, and discover how else you can be implementing these scenarios in order to really reap the benefits of having a class of students that works on their own, really, that they are the ones who are learning on their own. And so this is a subscription. The whole subscription is only 79 euros. We actually priced it at a very low very low price, because we want to make sure that everyone is able to connect, even the low income in the low income countries. And this is the ways that you can join it. The easiest way is to do it through Substack, and we will change it to a paid subscription soon. If you do have a Revolut account, this is also another possibility of making the payment. It's a very affordable cost, and we think that perhaps it's an equivalent of getting a coffee and a cake with a friend once a month. It is not really burdensome, but it does provide a supportive community for you in a way that is very innovative and very supportive. Okay, Pasha?
Yeah, okay. So of course you can follow us on all sorts of media. We recommend our YouTube channel where you will find some short films that we've made about our program, in case you want to repeat something. Yeah, there is also a Facebook page, as you can see. There's Instagram. So whatever is easiest for you to use, just use it and keep in touch. Yes.
Mm-hmm. So what we want to also say is in our meta guide, we used an application called AI Mirror, which is an AI app to create drawings from photos. So we think that it is very amazing, and it makes us look very, very young. And one of the things that I wanted personally to say is that I had to learn a lot from this app in order to master it, to try to figure out how it works. And that kind of proves to me that I am also a lifelong learner, and the awareness of this is the key to self-motivation and satisfaction in learning in our students as well. So when we learn ourselves, we are also modeling that, and we also have a chapter on modeling and scenarios on modeling this lifelong learning skill to our students so that they also emulate what we do and become those lifelong learners themselves. Kasia, do you want to say something more?
Exactly. Well, I really do recommend our program from the bottom of my heart, because it's like the epitome of our broad experience from, as you can see, different types of school, different kinds of background, but still there is a lot that connects us. And I think that our guide is actually like a must read, especially for new teachers who want to find out how to organize their classes, want to find out the latest trends and methodologies in education, want to find out about effective assessment, and many other important things checked in practice. So I think this is really important. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Angie, would you like to add something?
All good, Beata.
Oh, good. All right. So we have about 10 minutes left. Shall we take some questions?
Yeah, that's a great
you can write your question in the chat or unmute, get on camera if you like.
You can ask us questions now. Yep.
Henry, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. First I would like to introduce myself. Yeah. I am fresh graduate in mathematics education. Yeah. Something interesting in when I teaching mathematics, yeah, to student. Yeah, that's some the different and variety of family background of student, right? And my question is what is called, wait. Sorry, how is this discussed in this book, yeah, in meta books about the parents motivation and effect to student, and how can this awareness can be what is that developed within this family, like that? That's my.
Thank you for your question. That is a very important question, and we actually do have a whole chapter devoted to scenarios that can be implemented not just by the teacher, but also by the administration of the school. And we do in our practical tips. You saw in the page where the scenario is actually laid out. There are instructions, step by step, task 1, task 2, task 3, and there are also practical tips. And in those practical tips, often we comment basically not just low tech, high tech, but also what else can you say? What else can you do? How can you approach this implementation of this step, and mention in many cases what students can do, how can they behave, what will be their reaction, because we also have tested these scenarios. We have implemented them. In fact, myself, I have used most of this practice over the past 2 decades, and without knowing the word metacognition. It was basically at first very intuitive, because in fact it turns out that I am one of those people with lifelong learning skills inherited from my parents, I guess. But it's you get a lot of practical explanations and tips that will help you figure out, this is what I can do, this is how I can approach it. And if you implement a newsletter to parents, you will definitely want to mention it in the newsletter, to the parents. We're going to try something different. we're going to try something else that will hopefully trigger that self-motivation in your students, and we would like to have your support. So in a newsletter, you will be able to get your parents on board as well, or at least get them informed. We're going to be doing things a little bit differently because it's the 21st century. We need to start changing what we do and how we do it so that we can help your children really succeed on the job market later on. And some of them are going to be joining a job market in 10 or 15 years that doesn't exist yet, right? So that adaptation, the adaptation skills that we're going to be implementing through these scenarios will be crucial for them to you know, not just to survive, but to thrive in the new job market, which, you know, we have no idea what it's going to look like, because 20 years ago or even 10 years ago, many of the jobs that exist on the market today didn't exist, right? Does that answer your question, Henrik?
Yeah, that's enough. Thank you.
Yes, super, super. Anyone else? We can take a couple more. You can write it in the chat if it's not possible to unmute at this point.
Yes. Okay. No questions.
All right, it seems like everyone is pretty satisfied. So we're going to thank you once again for your attention. And we hope that we're going to see you on Substack and in the future webinars, and that you are going to stay with us throughout the year.
Yes, exactly. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.